What's up, guys? Good morning. Happy Thursday. Turn the music off. Give everyone a second. Get the chat going. Where's the chat? Is this a rave party? Nah, it's my attempt to find decent music that's copyright free, so I don't get in trouble. Just give me a quick sound check, and we'll get started. It's just going to be mostly, ideally, a trading stream. So, be looking for some opportunities right now. The NQ and just the NQ so far looks like it's back above where Powell gave his testimony. Again, just a quick sound check, loud and clear. All right, I will minimize the chat for now. Give me 1 sec, make sure everything is good. Minimize the chat. Okay. What's up? What's going on? Thank you for tuning in. As the description says, I'm streaming a little bit earlier. It's right after the open. I haven't really found my bearings yet. I had a really early morning up with my little one. But we'll look for opportunities during the stream. Ideally take some trades, take some questions, and yeah, run it for hopefully just over an hour. Maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less. We'll see. I have a couple different screens set up. I have the main screen that you're looking at right now, so just trading view, and then I have Sierra chart set up. I have my whole setup changed just for the stream, so it might be a little tough to get used to. Moved a bunch of things around, but I think this would be a good format because I always say I want to do this. I want to integrate more trading into the stream. Sorry, I have an itchy elbow right now. It's where I just had my new ink done. But it's tough. It's difficult to trade while you're streaming, while you're looking at a chat, while things are going on in the market. I like the period of 8:30 to the open, so to 9:30 and shortly thereafter, like the half hour after, to trade. I often stream during lunchtime because I don't know, it's easy to accommodate that. The market takes a little bit of a breather. At least in my opinion, that's not when I'm going to be as active. But I do want to do this. I think it'll benefit you guys. If you're not subscribed, if you're not part of the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. So as I mentioned, I have Sierra chart a little changed around. So we have you're looking at the NQ right now. So I just want to make sure that this is in the actual window. So I have TPO, the daily I don't really look at. I have a 1 to 2 hour context chart. I have a footprint chart, composite profile. This is what I'll make my composites on, and then they'll just be placed across the other charts. And then we have this is 350 trade candlestick chart. I'll switch between this and either the 350 trade candlestick chart or the 1000 trade candlestick chart. Instead of using a time-based chart. So these are based on trade, so it's based on actual activity in the market. On this chart, I have my CVD. I have difference between buyers and sellers, delta, and then this is basically what makes the CVD. And then I have volume profile, VWAP, 1 standard deviation band, and then just some levels marked off. You got your DOMs to the right. So I have the ES, and then we have the NQ. And I have hotkeys set up so I can very quickly, 1, switch between the screens, and then 2, I can go ahead and recenter these DOMs. So a lot of times one of the benefits of using DOMs, especially if you're looking at not just one product, so if you're looking at multiple products, you can see how they're pushing in relation to each other. So I could see, how the ES is pushing in relation to the NQ, whether or not it's the ES is actually doing any lifting or the NQ is just lifting on its own, and we'll see whether the markets are moving in tandem. It's not like it's going to be the most actionable looking at just the NQ and the ES. A lot of times you'll see people have DOMs of multiple products across multiple markets next to each other, so they might have treasuries mixed with equity indices, and then they might have some other commodities as well. Maybe they have crude oil, or maybe they have gold, and they just see the sort of intermarket relationships and again, where the activity is occurring and whether activity in one market is leading to activity in other markets that might normally be correlated, whether it's inversely correlated or positively correlated. Okay, so that screen is set up. Sorry, this elbow is bugging me. And then I have Exo set up. So I have the Exo desktop. So I have Bybit set up. So in the event of any alt trades, right now I took some profit on my alt shorts. I have this sub account set up. So again, any trades pop up, I'll go ahead and shoot over there and take some. I loaded this account with like, I think 20 grand. I took a scalp last night, so I think it's probably up to like 20,400 or something like that. You could actually see. So one sec, I think we just do this. Yeah, 20,184, excuse me. So as you guys know, this stream is powered by Bybit. Bybit is where I do my trading. The link is below. So non-KYC, spot, perp, they also have options. The option market obviously needs to thicken up a little bit, but I think that as the market grows, right, obviously we're in sort of the doldrums right now, but as the market grows, these will become more popular instruments. There's a lot of different ways to express yourself in the options market compared to, just Delta One products like, futures and spot. So check out the link. It's tradebybit.com. That link obviously is connected to my referral link. You guys know how that goes. I appreciate your support. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it. As a reminder, none of what I say is financial advice, strictly for entertainment purposes only. I do have the chat somewhere, so let me find the chat. You guys, someone had a question about DYDX, so I will get into that. Let me see where the chat is. Make sure that, okay. Maybe this is due to YouTube's bitrate, but does that DOM lag? No. Might be YouTube. Or you know what? It might be have a lot of things going on. I might be having a lot of, excuse me, I don't even do words right now. I might have to turn down the refresh on it. I was messing with that yesterday because I have a lot of things open right now. All right, so yeah, a little bit of a squeeze today. So a little bit of a squeeze. We had employment data come in. I guess I'll just do a quick recap of my thoughts. I was long last night, so I actually slept on a position. It's quite uncanny. It's not usual for me it's not something that I usually do. This entire bear market, one of the ways that I was able to escape most of the pain was that I really didn't have any overnight positioning. I kept most of my positioning intraday. Yeah, I ended up missing out on some significant swings, maybe that other people were willing to hold on to, but I would just rather go to sleep without that risk, without any kind of line items. And it worked out because I wasn't exposed to a lot of the catastrophic events we had in the market. I wasn't obviously exposed to those because I don't lean too far out when it comes to taking risks, period. But either way, I slept on a position last night and ended up getting rid of it this morning. I got rid of it right before the pop, whatever. It's not really a pop. But my reasoning was, if we just looked at BTC leading up to where I ended up dumping my position, there's a couple things. So perps are selling. So we're seeing a good amount of selling in the perp market. But this fucking elbow is going to bother me. I need to moisturize it or something. There was a good amount of selling in an area where you'd normally expect it, right? Where you would expect people to get trapped offside, and that is this major swing low going back to, the second week of February. So this is kind of like one of those major contextual levels we're going to look towards to see that kind of behavior occur. To see someone get caught offside. Ideally, this will either violently spike and reclaim, or we see this develop over time. So we didn't get a violent spike and reclaim. We don't really have development over time yet. So normally a turn after a move down like this is going to be, you're going to get a decent amount of time at the low before a move actually occurs. And then you'll start to see build up in absorption, and you might see a build up in open interest along with that, because you have positioning that's accumulating. You have risk that's being put on under the presumption it's going to continue. One side's offsides, and you get a larger squeeze. We didn't stab the low. So it's something that I often wait for. It doesn't mean that it's always rewarded. There's times when the market's looking all at the same area to get swiped, and it doesn't get swiped, and a lot of that gets front ran. I think in this environment, we're going to see lows taken out. I think we're moving lower, period. But this is an area where potentially you could get shorts trapped offside. We do have a significant amount of OI buildup. It does look like, though, so even though there's a significant amount of perp selling, brief period of backwardation, negative funding, the funding is just, it's a derivative of that delta between the spot price and the perp. So it's on us to figure out why that's occurring. In this case, my assumption is that it's occurring because there's actually a good amount of spot that's being sold. I don't know specifically how much spot is being unloaded by, or how much spot is being unloaded by some of the larger counterparties in the space right now that are experiencing stress. I don't know what extent of that is, but I do know that, for example, Voyager is one of them. So I think Voyager has this is a wide window, so excuse me, but maybe 150 million to 250 million worth of ETH to get rid of. Last I checked, that flow is being routed through Coinbase. So if there's that significant of a spot seller in the market, I mean, do I want to get fancy and fade a setup that's just based on derivative positioning? No, because it could continue to be that the spot market's going to be selling off harder than the perp market, and until that abates, I don't really want to step in the way of that. It just seems like that's a good amount of size, and who am I to try to step in front of that? I'd rather just see that flow's flushed out. I'd rather see that we're at a low like this, we're at a significant level like this, and at least funding begins to flatten out. At least our I'll just give you an example real quick. So this is just my looking across at multiple markets, but if I just look at BTC, and a possible trade is setting up the NQ right now, so we'll get to that in a second. This is just Bitcoin. So across multiple markets, so across multiple venues, they all kind of trade like different instruments. Here's Coinbase. Here is Bybit. Here is Binance, and here is Binance Spot. So I should say Binance Perp, Binance Spot. Wait, why is that set up? So Bitcoin Tether, that's OKX, excuse me. So earlier, before I done my positioning, perps were actually trading above spot into that move. So again, it just looks like, it doesn't exactly look healthy right now. I don't feel too bad about getting rid of my position for this small bounce. It just looks like there's a significant amount of spot selling that's taking place. All right, so I think that's pretty clear. I don't want to get too much into talking during these streams because I do want to take some trades. As I mentioned just a second ago, we'll go back to this setup. So the NQ right now is right at, so we actually have a little bit, no. The NQ is right at what I would say is a pretty significant level. So I mentioned this during the last stream. It's at Powell's testimony. Now the ES isn't there. So it's not like the ES, I don't think the ES has reclaimed that level. So we'll just go real quick before I take a trade too early. No, this is all the way back here. So Powell's testimony with Congress, caused a very significant move down. I think that this is probably overextended right now. So I'm just looking on the other screen. Sorry, it is going to be kind of difficult, but I want to go ahead and start scaling into a short here. If I could get filled. I already got 8 points on the day, but it's not like that's massive. We had a good pop on jobs data. The market's come back to that pivotal point where Powell started talking. It looks like the ES is not really doing much work at all, and it's mostly the NQ that's overthrown. We tagged the point of control of that down day. I'm looking at a different screen right now. This is difficult to manage, but we'll get it done. And now we have flow beginning to shift. So we're looking at CVD right now, strong move up, and then really momentum dying. I just want to make sure this stays in the window. Momentum dying on this next move up. So you can see that you have a high for that high and then a much lower high and not nearly as much buying. I probably should have got filled more. We are 4.5 points in. I mean, there's a lot of volume that was transacted up here. Just look at this profile. Honestly, if we reclaim this level, so if the market is able to hold this high volume node, We have a gap up. This is kind of where you would want to see the market hold. So 12.13, 12.314 for continuation. If this move is going to be a trending move, we already tagged the point of control though. I don't know. I don't see this going all the way back up to above that level at 12.380. It just seems like this is beta right now for what was you know, a weak catalyst driven bounce based on jobs data. I should have added to this. It is difficult to stream and trade at the same time. I'll be the first person to tell you that because I should have more size on this right now. And I do have this set up a little bit differently. So you can see right when we came above that level, so right when the NQ returned back to that pivot point, right? So again, labeled, we started getting aggressive selling coming in and fading this move. Now, I mentioned before, you know, levels, market structure is important, right? But then there are many other levels that you should be marking out on your chart. And they should be, you know, derived from volume. They should be derived from catalysts, you know, where significant change came in, right? Where, you know, a significant amount of participation came into the market. So this is actually a pretty nice short right now. So let me just square this up again. 10 points, 11 points. Let's see if we could get the move back down to VWAP. I mean, look, you had all that volume come in above that level. If you just look at the profile. And we just left a 2-day composite back down around 12,227. That's a fucking nice short. Probably going to peel out of this because it is difficult to manage this and stream at the same time. Let's see if we could ride this a little bit more. All right. Let's hotkey our way back in. Someone's going to front run me. Out. All right, so 44 points on the day. Cool. Good stuff. Where was I? Okay. So, let me check the chat real quick. The OI indeed goes up. Shit, I have a fucking Charlie horse in my leg right now. Oh my God. Got to straighten that out. Let me just show you guys what we have going on back here. So, one sec. Ooh, Charlie horse is really bad. That's like, if you've ever been on a bench, I saw BitBoy do this, honestly. Oh my God. You guys can see I have a pretty gnarly beard right now. Let me show you what I have going on in the background. So I have my Gurney's sweater on, sweatshirt. So it's not in the view. I have one of those like children's play things. What is it called? Like a pack and play for my daughter. So that while I'm working, and you know, I work from home, obviously, right? So I trade from home. My wife is a stay-at-home mom. But if I'm in my office, I don't want to be in here all day. And you know, I take breaks. I get out and see my daughter. But instead of just that being the case, we have the pack and play in here, so she could come in here and play with her in here, and I could turn around and, you know, take a quick break from time to time. Okay. So so Jacob, I could change, the profits can be changed to multiple formats. So I'll tell you, I'll give you a little bit of alpha. Let me make sure that we're not missing anything real quick. I'm going to try to keep this stream as casual as possible while trading. BTC had, I don't feel bad, like I said, about BTC. We had a brief pop, but I think it was probably just algo driven. Let's change the screen real quick and make sure we're not missing anything. Or let's just actually see the next area where we would want to get involved anyway. This level, as I said this one stream ago or 2 streams ago, however many streams we had since then, probably just one. As long as we're below this level, I'm bear biased. So if we're able to reclaim this level, if if we're able to get back above for the NQ, and most of my trading in equity index futures now has been in the NQ. If we're able to get back above there, and we show a clear sign of acceptance. So after this rejection now, if the market is able to trade back above, 330, and we're able to base out, then maybe we have a possible reacceptance. So far we rejected off of that point of control, and it's probably the point of control of this entire composite. It is. If we're able to reaccept back above where Powell knocked the market down, so it really looks like, so I combined a couple profiles. One sec. Combined a couple profiles to the left. So that's that composite. If we're able to trade back in there, if we're able to hold that level, then I'm just going to treat this like another range. So I'll treat, 12,330, first sticky point where we rejected right now around 12,360, and then all the way up to 12,440. If the market could get back above there, that's great. Then, that was the last major turning point. Not the last major turning point. I mean, this is the daily chart right now. Let me get rid of all these. Okay. So this is where the S&P was best, right? This is the NQ right now, but this level market structure was, we were at a 9-month long range high. So really important contextual level at that point where we're still above the 200. We bounced at 200 right down here. And I'm just thinking about the S&P right now while looking at the NQ. So bear with me. And then we had that big breakdown, right? So big breakdown. And as I said, the area where you would want to look to either short or take profits if you long the bounce, or just not blindly long into, was that 50% retracement that really nicely lined up with the prior range low. So this multi-day composite, your lows right there, 50% retracement. Again, sort of ideal area to see things get capped off, but also see them get thrown back to for some kind of mean reversion, because the market's just not going to move in one direction. This market it looks like we're going to be playing this game probably all year. Data gets bad. Okay, maybe things are going to be pulled off a little bit early. Oh, by the way, inflation's still bad. The Fed is not happy. Okay, higher, longer, and we're going to have this sort of seesawing, choppy behavior all year. Either way, play the game. So that's that composite right there with respect to higher time frame market structure. The underside of that, the entire composite right here, if we're able to show really strong constructive price action in there, it is basically the case that we're back inside of this range. So then maybe we have a much larger range to deal with. And then you're looking at, possible continuation and maybe finally a breakout of what again was, and I'll go back to this chart. It's a 9-month long range at this point. I mean, it's really clean. It doesn't get cleaner than this. This is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-month long range. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're in the beginning of March. So 10 months basically. So really clean. So 41.50, 42. If we're above there, as I said, like you have to start thinking, and this is like just really basic game theory. Any kind of long only asset manager that's been tepid and sitting out, and oh my God, this Charlie horse is going to pop my hamstring, that's been sitting out, is going to have to start worrying about, they're bringing on career risk by possibly not getting into the market if we begin to trend up and leave this all behind us. So 4150, 4200, that's a really significant level. I don't have to tell you that. The market has really done a good job of indicating that just based on market structure. It's not always that you get a setup like this. Honestly, not to invoke any kind of fear in anybody's heart, but the last time we had a really clean monthly setup like this was in the 1970s, and that was something that we broke down from. So it was I think it was a much shorter range. So just clean monthly setup. Excuse me, this might be completely wrong, but I think we had a very clean setup in the 70s, and somewhat similar context, but it was much shorter. Just talking about multi-month highs that were really clean, and I guess that was me reaching, but that's back here. So either way, as I was saying with the NQ, we have a micro range above us. It's a multi-day composite. But potentially, if we break through that, so if we're able to trade back above this little range right here, right? So that is it's a 2.5 day long range. We're looking at the futures market. But if we're able to trade back in the underside of this structure, you're targeting 12,600, 12,700 possibly, just a range high. Just, how we treat most of our setups. Well, for those of us that trade ranges and trade from level to level, which has been the smart thing to do, arguably for the last year and a half. So it's a decent setup. It's a decent opportunity. It's also the area that you would expect us to get rejected from, though. That took a lot for me to say. I don't know why I was so long-winded about that. There's a lot of things going on doing this and flipping windows and trying to keep a train of thought. What was I going to say before that, though? Okay, so the next area that I would look for a bounce would be back down at this composite right around 12,250. So we'll see if we're going to be doing something like that. I mean, after that bounce, it's just been one-sided flow. So just looking at CVD and Delta. But I mean, whoever was able to short and hold on up here, I didn't hold that. This is probably coming all the way back down. At least, I would imagine this at least comes back down to VWAP. I mean, this move held the 1 standard deviation band the entire time. Probably looking at the 2 standard deviation band. I don't have it on right now. Just where this outer line would be. Ton of volume up there. And then, yeah, it looks like it's probably going to come back down to VWAP around 12,260. I don't want to chase this short right now during the stream. I mean, honestly, probably could tag one on. Invalidation being above. Tag 2 on. See if I can get filled more. This just looks very one-sided right now. Filled for 2. And then if above 12,310. We'll just play stops there just in case. Kind of a hasty entry, but for the sake of trading during the stream, I want to get something going. So anyway, what was I saying? What wasn't I saying, actually? Okay, so what I was going to say was, see, this is how I get lost easily. What is this on? 1,000 tick right now? Yeah. Put on 350 tick. About points instead of using currency. So this is going to stop me out right now. You could have it on points currency, or there's a couple other settings as well. The benefit of looking at points is I think it takes emotion out of it. So if you're trading and you have that set to currency, you're going to see, when you're in the red, you're going to see exactly how much money you're losing. And that kind of thing can fuck with your head. So rather than do that, I would rather a decent base hour. I mean, when you look at it now, it's like you have a clear divergence right now in absorption. So higher low, and so I zoomed in and didn't even notice that. It's probably going to be stopped out in this trade. When you're just looking at points, yeah, I was just stopped out of one, stopped out both. That's all right. Watch it dump now. When you're looking at points, it just takes the emotion out of it. So rather than looking at the actual dollar value, let's say you see your $1,000 down, and you see your, however much money down. Rather than do that by looking at points, it's just kind of like, it's treating it like a game, I think, a little bit more, which I think just helps you in the long run. It's the concept of also, one of the things you could do to help yourself as a trader is hide your P&L. So not looking at your P&L. So the trouble is, I had it on, I'm not going to make excuses, but I had it on a 1,000 trade setting. So normally intraday, I'm going to have it on a 350 trade setting. And then if I just want to zoom out a little bit to, sort of like if I was looking at a higher time frame chart, then I'll switch between the 1000 tick setting. Now, when you're looking at the 1000 tick setting, you can't really see, and I could have seen it if I had it scaled a little bit differently. But when you're looking at a 350 tick chart or lower time frame chart, that's when you could see on the low time frames, you could see signs of absorption a little bit clearer. So for example, this, maybe this ends up failing back at the same level, but maybe I would have waited for my entry at that point. Though I did get in, like I said, pretty hastily. Sorry, we're still up 20 points in the day. But point being, where's my drawing tools? Just make sure I have my drawing tools on. You have a higher low right here, and looking at the lower time frame setting or lower tick setting, you can see very cleanly that there's a clear delta divergence. So ideally, now we have something where we make a lower high right here, not right here, but a lower high under this important contextual level, and then we start breaking market structure again to the downside. And then maybe we'll look to ride a short again. But I was basically chasing a breakdown, thinking we were going to get something a little bit swifter. So I think the ES actually trades really clean. I just prefer the NQ because, I don't know, it trades a little bit closer to what I've been used to for the last 7 years, which is BTC. So before that, I was trading equity index futures. I was trading crude oil. But after not trading those for a really long time, I initially went back. I traded the ES. I traded the NQ. I was trading them back and forth and trying to get a feel for which one I liked more, what product I could, warm up to a little bit better again. And I think it ends up being the case that I prefer the NQ over the ES. But there's times when I'll switch it up. So we're building value now back above that. So if we're going to start building value above that level, I don't necessarily want to look for the fade. As long as we're above it and we're building value, I mean, it's entirely possible that we're going to leg up, like I said, and start trading throughout this entire range. I mean, this is a really wide opening range so far. So right off of the open, pretty strong move. So this is a 30-minute opening range, these black lines. It's a really strong move so far. Now, a really wide move like that, you have some people who will say that it's same with the initial balance, that you're looking at a trend day versus a range day versus a trend day. And if you have a tight one, you'll look at a range day after the break versus a trend day. Excuse me, a trend day versus a range day. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think that stuff is really that actionable. This right off of the open, so the open is, I don't know why this isn't lined up perfectly with the open. The open should be right here. This right off of the open, really strong one-sided move, as you could tell. So whether or not this continues, I don't know. I mean, if we look at the dollar right now, what's the dollar doing? I think big picture, the dollar still looks like it's going to bounce more. Like I said, I mean, at multi-year support, or arguably what would be multi-year support, at least for some time. I mean, it's a big move over a long period of time. This is a really big range over a much longer period of time. Do we expect it to fail that fast? I mean, no. You expect that this area to provide some level of support, which support in the dollar has led to trouble and risk. Although that relationship hasn't always been the case over the last decade, it definitely has been the case over the last year and a half. So ideally for BTC, because we've had this sort of small squeeze, again, catalyst driven, it's not exactly following the S&P tick for tick. Correlation has actually been pretty low recently. I wouldn't want to get, I'm not second guessing my decision to close my long out, honestly, unless we're trading back above yesterday's value or back within yesterday's value, above yesterday's POC, and then maybe we have, specifically, maybe we have some kind of reacceptance setup back in this range. Yesterday I said, 12,150. So I shared this on Twitter, 12,150 acceptance above there. And then I would have looked at something possibly back to mid, back to high. Arguably after a structure like this, big move down, and then a failed breakdown continuation. A lot of times you could just write off the midpoint as being something you could take for granted, and you could just expect this to slingshot up to the high. I think that setup is still a decent setup. So this being a high probability setup versus anything down here, leading back up to possibly just here before turning. Unless we have some kind of further fault, pop through that level. That, as I said, I shared this on Twitter with this little box. As I said, spikes into those lows and then recovers. So maybe something that spikes into these lows and then we have a bounce. And then I think you have something a little bit more concrete. But you would still probably be looking at targeting the underside of this range as a first target. So the NQ is bouncing off of 30-minute opening range high. I mean, that is not, if you just look at this amount of selling that came in after this high, everything's going to look a lot less on this next leg, right? So it could say that this maybe looks like it's on less momentum, less buying, but there's a lot of selling into this move. So this is going to start from the starting point for this is obviously going to be much lower. There's times when I say that, for example, I talked about this right here. Lower high in CVD, much lower high in CVD, lower high in price, just indicating a lack of buying at this next high, a lack of follow through and similar demand. I don't know, maybe we get another setup here at the range high. I mean, the ES has not really done much. We are, if we look at, I mean, it actually is pretty clean. So if you look at just the last couple days structure, so we're still holding yesterday's high. So, this is possibly a transition. Maybe we have a move through this gap, cleans up the structure. From a risk to reward standpoint, this is the best place to define some kind of invalidation for a swing long. Value moving up, volume moving up. You can see the POC shifting right now. So listen, a cleaner break setup at this point is us failing here and then rotating back within yesterday's structure. And then I think that you have a really quick move back down through this move up because it's pretty one-sided. And I think you probably have poor lows today. Yeah, we do. So today's TPO in the ES is we have a poor low so far. You can kind of see it on the volume profile. See how that's kind of blunt down there? Although the volume profile is not going to show it as good as the TPO. But if you put on a 30-minute chart, which is what your TPO is made of, you can see how close these lows are. Right, so it's right down here actually. So no real wick. Never took yesterday's lows. But again, this being driven right now by employment data. And, you know, there's a lot of buying into the close yesterday, which was quite odd. You had like 250 million notional on the bid within a couple points. So pretty weird. Check the chat real quick. So either look for, in the NQ, either look for failure again. See if we could re-lose. If we start trading back under that area that I labeled Powell testimony, then maybe we have a lower high in the making. But mindful of where the ES is sitting right now. So again, Powell, so just to put it on this chart, that level is right. It's basically right here. Right? So if we're unable to press through here, right, and accept above, then I think your failure here, again, this is just a very imbalanced move up. It's not exactly a structure that looks like it's built really strong. So far, it's pretty top heavy in terms of where volume is coming in. But it all does depend on the ES. Turned out to be a pretty decent short for ETH, huh? What was I going to say earlier about, DYDX? Let me just find the chat real quick. Where'd the chat go? There we go. So for Stream Deck, I have it set up to hook up to any platform that allows for hotkeys. So I don't think Bybit natively allows for hotkeys. If you're using like Teal Street or Quant Tower, then you could use the hotkeys. I have it set up for Sierra charts, so I could place orders on Sierra charts. For example, if you just look at the NQ right now, I could switch between lot sizes, could get in and out of positions really quickly. But for like right through Bybit's website, you can't use hotkeys. You have to have some kind of setup. This actually would have been a decent short up here into that gap where you would expect supply to come back in. But after closing long, I wasn't going to immediately open short. So the funny thing is, a lot of that move up, open interest is still just kind of mooning. So I wonder if you have longs that just chase that. So DYDX, why was this a really good short? Someone asked me that, I think, in the Discord. So let's say this is the hourly chart. Here's the daily chart. So I was talking about this being a good long for a while. So good long right until about up here. So this was kind of make or break. You know, you have a multi-month long range. So really clean structure. You know, if you're looking for a bottom, this is what you would want to see, right? Multi-month range, finally have a breakout, and you're treating what was, 9-10 month long resistance as support finally. So this is possibly, if BTC is moving up, ETH's moving up, markets are healthy, this is as clean as you're going to get to long the trend change. If you didn't long down at the lows, this is a significant shift in market structure, right? Major contextual level. The NQ looks like it might be rolling now. go ahead and, one sec. I'm just taking a look at this on the top screen. Yeah, momentum's drying up. See if I can grab short again. So this is the most significant contextual level on the chart, right? You have here and here, right? Defining the range low, defining the range high. So holding this as support was quite meaningful, right? You had a couple attempts back at it, right? So first one, most obvious. First one's going to give you the most significant response. Second one, okay, maybe we're building a firm base right here, and ideally you would want to see that after this breakout, again, that you have some kind of momentum. That's a white line, so that's not really going to help. There we go. After this breakout, you have some kind of momentum. Let me clean that up. So it should be pretty precise on your screen. After that breakout, you want some kind of momentum, right? We took that local high. Instead, you had the exact opposite. So a really bullish setup that fails, it's pretty bearish, right? Especially on the high time frame, especially when everything starts rolling over. So this, honestly, before we got to this point, this looked like it had the furthest to fall. If everything's going to roll over, this is probably going to just treat this range like it did prior. So meaning range highs broken. Your midpoint is probably your first target. One sec. Midpoint is probably your first target. And then you're looking at range low, right? So a really bullish setup that fails. So that's ultimately what it is. And this moves very quickly for a reason. So you took out this high. So anyone who is shorting this lower high, you run those stops. And then when you run stops and blow out shorts, even though there's not much of a gas out or blowout here, you remove any buying pressure that's back within the structure. So anytime that shorts are in the market, there's built-in buying pressure in the structure. So instead, you remove that, stop them out, trigger some breakout longs right here. So you place stop orders back within here, and then the reversal is just, it's violent at that point. So my breakdown setup was, so if you look at this daily, and then let me just get rid of this. I'll draw on this chart, and then you'll see it'll go on the other charts as well. It was just right here. So is the retest right here that we're looking at. So I was shorting right in the 250, 248 region. And yeah, that's that. Looking at the underside retest, and then ultimately looking at mid-range. And I shared yesterday why this looked like the NQ is pushing up again. I'm still going to short until we're up at that high. What was I saying? Yesterday, it looked like someone was starting to front run the midpoint of the range and take some profit on shorts and potentially buy back. So that was right around the 190s. I shared that on Twitter. And turned out to be somewhat accurate because we had since then, almost a 10% bounce. But, just very clean market structure. It was being respected on the way up. It looked really bullish. If you're talking about a significant change in the market and possibly a longer trend that's going to occur, that kind of setup is what you want to see. So when those begin to fail sort of across the board, like, there's no reason why any one of them should hold up in particular. I don't think there's any kind of like idiosyncratic strength in this market right now. So it was kind of simple in that regard. I think there's probably there's a decent amount of setups, honestly, that... So let me blow this. I'll look on a different chart, actually. If you look at the daily, so there's a good amount of rollovers across the board. Let me get rid of the profile. We'll just put on something like the 20-period moving average, right? What is still relatively close? You have AJAX, right? So the 20-period moving average, a good sort of line in the sand dynamic for bulls and bears. Strong strong trends will hold this level. Will usually hold like 1-2 standard deviations of it. So when you're still around it and most of the market is losing its footing, it's a decent area to define a position in the opposite direction if we start losing it and we're still relatively close to it. We haven't overshot it tremendously. So things that are, so this is CVX. I shorted this yesterday. And as you can see, the market is rolling over. CVX is compressing. 20 periods moving sideways, market's moving sideways. And this was just relatively close to that average still, and we haven't really overextended to the downside. I was just kind of looking for shorts that hadn't done things like this, right? That's total DeFi. But looking for shorts that hadn't really overthrown, like 1 inch, for example. Aave, Cardano, looking at where they are with respect to the 20 period, right? They've gotten pretty far away right at this point. So I think that things that are still close to it just haven't caught up yet. I don't think that we're looking at certain things that just are showing signs of strength and are going to hold up. So that really left me with CVX, Floki, and Ajax, which I took a little bit of profit on. I think, honestly, better shorts are going to arrive next week. I think we do get some kind of relief rally. Let's get back to the other screen because I am open in 2 contracts. See if this rolls now. I mean, it looks like we're losing momentum up here. Again, it's at the high of the opening range. We regain Powell's level. I'm entered in from, you can see the entry up here, right? 12,336. Just going to take profit on this because I can't talk and trade that effectively at the same time. So back at 37 points for the day. That's probably going to roll more, but honestly, it is difficult to manage positions and do this at the same time. And I'm not paying attention as much as I should. I should just place an invalidation above the top of the range at this point and see if this one rolls. But judging by the weird close we had yesterday, I don't know. You never want to, in this market, it's really dangerous to get comfortable in a position thinking that you have a good idea, a good amount of certainty about where it's going to end up. It doesn't take much for the market to rip back in your face. So where's the chat? I don't know what a harmonic is, dude. Let's see. I never heard of CFG either, Dodonna. What's up, Ross? Yeah, Joe, I think you might have mentioned a harmonic before. I have no idea what a harmonic is. I mean, I've heard the term before. I know people that use harmonics, but no, Mondo, I don't really factor that in. I mean, I know that flows are really wacky the last 6 months because of 0 days to expiry options, but even though they've become just a talking point recently, no, unless we're like close to OPEX, or unless there's anything like really egregious, it's not something that I'd think about. I mean, for my intraday trading, you'll see how the market behaves around OPEX into options expiry. If there's a really significant expiry, you'll see that the market is very choppy. But other than keeping that in mind and not like looking for the trend on those days, then no, I don't try to look too much into it. Dan's M pattern. Yeah, I don't know. Dan? Oh, Dan, who is in the Discord. Yeah, I mean, he uses those. Listen, a lot of that stuff, there are people that use that and they use it successfully, and more power to them. When I look at a chart and I look at when I look at a chart, all I see when people share sort of those patterns, like they might pick one out, and this is not talking bad about anybody's system, but this is just what I see. I think people see what they want to see and then kind of rationalize things after. And I think they trade on something else that maybe they can't identify subconsciously, but then have sort of a reason for why that occurred. Because when I see people sharing M patterns and W patterns, they have like 2 of them picked out in, let's say, your screen, right? But then I see like 20 of them. And then I think like, well, why didn't that one work? Like, what? How come that one's not highlighted? It looks, like it's the same exact thing. But listen, if you're using that with something else and deriving that, some level of actionable information from it, more power to you. Again, rolling off of Powell's level. See, the S&P is not, it's mostly the NQ that's pushing today. I mean, we're 2x the S&P in terms of today's returns. And I don't, normal beta from the NQ to the ES, I was saying S&P, but, ES for index futures, it looks like it's normal for it to be, maybe within 1.5 to 2. But for the NQ to be really overperforming and the S&P to not be doing much, I don't know if I would consider that within norms. It's close, but it just looks like the NQ overshot. I mean, we're talking about a really significant level for the S&P. We're not even close to it. And the NQ is all the way back inside that range. So, I mean, arguably, you'd expect, and this is not really a gap, but it's not like an area where we established any kind of value. This region between 12,320 and 12,230, you would see this get filled out. Now, the S&P is right down at its range high. So if we were looking at this as a composite we left, and the S&P basically did the same thing, it's still at range high down here somewhere. So it's not like I would expect the NQ to hang out up here if the S&P loses its range high and reaccept. So let me just see if I could switch this up. I can, but I have it cut on the screen. So here's my point. If the S&P loses this, instead of, it's not going to fill this out, the gap is up here for the S&P. If the S&P loses 4K, that's what I meant to say, or that's what I was getting at, then there's no real reason for the NQ to stay and fill this out instead of just completely reversing. So it, overthrows to the upside, and I think that if we lose 4K, the NQ is just going to overthrow to the downside as well. And right now, it just looks especially top heavy. You're looking at, just looking at the volume profile alone. You have this nice P profile. I mean, this seemed like a just forceful short squeeze. So I wouldn't be surprised if this rolls over just as, in just as ugly as a fashion as it moved upward, or painful, I should say, for one side. And it's just, you can see that just from this high, it's just one-sided back down. Sellers are just overwhelming buyers right now. So unless BTC swipes any lows, we're not going to be taking any crypto trades during this stream, but I was happy to grab some NQ positions. That was my clout seeking yesterday. Selling, sell in March or get starched. Saying, excuse me, did I say selling? Saying selling. Yeah, I honestly think we're going to splash this, but we'll see. The reason of getting rid of it before, like you might think like, well, that's, why would you get rid of your position right here if you think it's going to splash here anyway? What I want to make sure is we don't get, in what seems like a ton of spot selling, we don't get something that splashes through and takes out 20,005 before doing that, right? I mean, there's a big difference there. In terms of levels, we're going back a few streams now since the beginning of this move, and I started talking about this in February when I was talking about this correction that was going to come. I was talking about that early, right? I was talking about that at the end of January, actually, right? We're going to have some kind of violent move down. This one held, but I think the area where you would bring in a ton of participation, get people really committing, panicking even, these lows, right? I mean, this is from a profile standpoint, it's more or less the largest gap we have since the beginning of this move. And I mean, if we look at, yearly VWAP right now, which is basically the anchored VWAP for this move, right? Because yearly is basically where this started. I not to invoke any fear in anyone's heart, but the yearly open has no wick, right? It's just little things like that, right? If you see that on a 30-minute chart or a daily chart, it's just an immediate target. Not immediate, right? But stands out as an area where the market might revisit, and more often than not will. So we're right at yearly VWAP right now. That's Coinbase. If we look at Binance Perps, we've lost it. Okay, so a little bit of derivative positioning that's probably stale at this point, but, bull's definitely not in control anymore. The area to really splash and get most people involved would be to puke into this low, trap a bunch of sellers down here, and then have a reversal. More or less puke into that gap. You look at the edges of gaps to get involved. So, this box I have here is, I have this box on this chart, and now the NQ is finally dumping. I have this box on this chart and a couple alts. And honestly, there's nothing special about it. It is a reminder when I'm looking at the chart to not get too aggressive with shorting into the things that I'm currently short. Because I think that we do have some mean reversion on a weekly time frame, and I want to be reminded that I shouldn't be buying into that. I should probably look for more shorts at that point. So and this is just the start of next week. So ideally, in case I forget, which I won't, if we're here, I'm looking at this, I know immediately, all right, I had a plan. I'm going to be looking to fade unless there's any major change in legacy, and ultimately, so I should make a point. It's a little different if we come down here first. So if we're down here, then maybe this is the rally that I want to be part of mostly. Whereas if we started bouncing here, I'm probably going to be prioritizing a sell regardless, because I still think we're coming down here. Just give me 1 sec because I have to take a leak. So I'm going to put you guys on hold for 1 second. We're back. Okay. Oh, FYI, I shared this in the Discord community. I mentioned that if anyone was interested in trying to trade legacy commodities, indices, and FX, I was going to look at the available exchanges to see if I could get the community any kind of deals. You know, sometimes exchanges have deals like Bybit, for example. It's where I do my crypto trading. They have sign-up bonuses right now. So after looking into Prime, after looking into Bing, I actually went ahead with Bing. And anyone who uses the link, a link is in this description. It's also in the community. Gets a $100 bonus. You don't even have to put a deposit. You could start off with that bonus. That's how their setup is. Not a lot of exchanges are, but they are offering FX, commodities, and CFDs. And I don't think it's KYC. So in the community, I share the resources I use. I share exchange links, and I'm going to be updating them from time to time, depending on what bonuses are available. You know, it's sort of like, if you're going to be in the community, if you're going to use the links, you're not required to, but I'm going to do my best to make sure that you get some kind of kickback. Anyway, where were we? The inner circle trader. I have a couple thoughts on the inner circle trader. Okay, so one, I'll go with the harsh truth first. ICT probably does not trade. And I say probably, I'm saying that with some certainty, with a lot of certainty, with almost all certainty, 100%. It's very unlikely that he actually trades. He makes almost all of his money. I think he had a Freudian slip once by selling his courses and his mentorship or whatever it is. Okay, so there's a few reasons why I think that. There's some proof. There's a couple old podcasts he was on. He was on a podcast with Cartel, which is a good Discord back in the day. It's kind of devolved a little bit, but it was more popular last cycle. And Flood, so Thinking USD made him cry by putting him on the spot. That was pretty painful to listen to. But he was in a trading competition, and I think he blew up. And I think that he's also backed out of it. You know, fake traders, a lot of times, they're the kind of people to say, like, oh, you don't think I'm a good trader? Trade against me. I was going to actually say something I probably shouldn't have said. I want to make sure I don't say, but I normally respond with it in person. That's ridiculous. Almost no real trader responds like that, and trading competitions are stupid anyway. They're just for fun. But he's not a real trader. Is he teaching concepts that work? Yeah, actually. Yeah, I know a few people that have learned through him, and they're successful traders. That doesn't mean that, listen, is it worth paying him to teach you? I don't know. That's up to you. He teaches the same. Here's what he does. Sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place ever since I got up to pee. I was thinking about the answer to this question in my head as I'm saying it. I didn't have my entire thoughts planned out. Most importantly, what I want to say about ICT is the most grifty thing that he does, scammy thing, is he takes concepts that already have terms and trading jargon associated with them, and then he takes simple concepts and he rebrands them with his own terms. And this is something that a lot of people do in different businesses, even in different industries. Accounting, the legal, not law, but more or less accounting is probably one of the most egregious examples of it. Takes well-known concepts, relabels them, makes them sound really complicated, and then sells them to you, and he sells them as if he's the only one who could explain them. Does that make sense? He takes like really simple concepts in the market, basic supply and demand stuff, honestly some basic order flow stuff, and he overcomplicates it, gives it his own term, his own spin, so that he could be the one who, has that special information and is able to demystify the market to you, when it's really, he's just repackaging shit that's already publicly available. That's what it is, honestly. Sorry, it took me a second to get to that conclusion. He's he's kind of a con. He takes stuff that is already well-known, concepts that don't belong to me, they don't belong to you, they're part of the market. And he repackages them as if they're something that he discovered on his own. He doesn't trade, but does he teach things a certain way that maybe people can absorb because he's a good teacher. Is he a good teacher? Maybe he's a good teacher, right? There are people that they teach professional baseball players how to swing a baseball bat. Swing coaches, maybe coaches that teach the pitcher how to pitch better, right? Coaches on sports teams, right, that help the athletes. They're coaching them how to play their particular position or, you know, do something for the team, regardless of what sport, you know, whether or not it's baseball or basketball, but they don't play the sport professionally, right? I feel like the last 2 to 3 minutes of me talking, I've just been rambling, honestly, and mumbling. I can't get my thoughts straight right now. I feel, you know what, honestly, it's like when you ask me something like that, I feel bad talking shit about somebody. So I want to say what I think, but then part of me holds back, and then I'm not able to communicate effectively, and I kind of dancing around my words. You know, got to be smart about what I say. I mean, let's be honest. If you ask me in person, I'd say that guy's a fucking idiot. He's a grifter. I said it. But yes, people have learned from him. But it's just maybe because he's a good teacher. Fair? Sorry for the inability to articulate myself. All right. What else we got? PTC dumped down to what, today's open? Did we? Yeah, Mondo was. See, I don't really like, so that's why I have trouble even articulating it and giving an honest answer. I don't like bashing people, man. Most of these people have already been beat up in life. A lot of people on crypto Twitter, a lot of the people that, you know, you interact with on a day-to-day, people that are they have sort of edgy and you know, maybe carry an attitude and have a certain way about themselves on Twitter. They are that way because, you know, maybe they have poor self-esteem, maybe they're not happy in their life. And I don't feel right about calling them out on those things. And ICT, I think, is a guy that's just, you know, he's a fraud, he's a fake. But even that, I don't like, you know, I feel bad, I guess, calling a spade because, I don't know. You know what it is? It's because I heard him cry. That was a painful thing to listen to. Listen, a grown man crying, there's something about it. You know? Something about hearing a grown man cry. There's different types of cries, right? When my daughter was born, I cried. There's times when I go in my daughter's room late at night, honestly, I look at my daughter when she's sleeping, and I get teary-eyed. So that's one thing, okay? That's just me being real. I'm just so happy, over the moon. But there's another thing when a man is just sobbing, you know, losing control of their voice box, shuddering. That's painful to listen to. Now, have I ever cried like that before in my life? Yeah, I've lost really good friends. I've been there when friends were gone. I've lost friends in person. Yeah. Maybe a full docs is in order one day. But hearing that on the internet over trading was just, it's painful. That guy's already hurt by life enough. I tell you what, that guy makes a lot of money teaching, though. Anyway, I digress. Is there anything else? What time is it? It's 11:16. Do you think the interest on our debt is a proper counter argument to the Fed raising rates higher for longer? I mean, it's not a good thing, right? It's not a good thing. You know, what's interesting is we're kind of maybe we're on the verge of World War III. We're We're close to it. It's a different type of war obviously. But that's something to think of. If you can't really have high interest rates, be in debt, and be at war. So for us, for other countries, just when I look at everything that's going on from my small pea brain in terms of geopolitics and the economy and what's taking place in our country, my country and abroad, things just seem like they're kind of broken, right? Something is different. Something's amiss. I was a kid who I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. When I was in college, like the world felt like it was my oyster. Like it felt like in the early 2000s and late 1990s, like, everything was good. Life was a movie. Not for everybody, but you go to school, you get good grades, you come out, there's a bunch of jobs available for you. Even if you don't get the best jobs, like you could climb the corporate ladder, you have a great chance. Life is peachy. Now it's like everything just feels like just a scary carnival ride, right? Things feel backward. How can I put it? The fabric of society feels like it's tearing. I don't know, just a thought as we trade these stupid markets. Just feels like something's off, right? And it doesn't feel like it is, and I don't want to turn the stream into something, into this theme, but just doesn't feel like it's slowing down, right? It feels like it's kind of speeding up. Do you feel that becoming successful has made you lose friends? It's a great question, honestly. I like these streams, things like this. Let me move this so it's out of the way of the NQ Dom. Cold War 2.0, exactly. Great way to put it. Yeah. So I feel, yeah, definitely. Do you feel that becoming successful has made you lose friends? It has, because there's a saying that the people that hate you the most when you become rich are like your best friends. Like nothing's worse than seeing your best friend become rich. Not to say my best friends, right? But yeah, people, they treat you differently. They definitely do. They just expect that you're able to help all the time with any of their issues. It's kind of like you become the ATM in the friend group. It sounds fucked up, but it is. Some of them do. But you love them anyway. But yeah, there is something to be said for that. And then people just, I don't know, they kind of fall off a little bit. So if some people don't become sort of leechy, maybe they resent you. So I don't want to get too into it, but yeah, I definitely see that. Yeah, Horace, last days of Rome. Yeah, let's be honest. All empires fall, right? What's the average age of an empire upon falling? Was it like 200 years or? I don't know. Yeah, that time was great, right? Great music, great TV, great movies. I can't tell you how many times I like to just get nostalgic and I'll be driving and I'll put on like 90s rock. Yeah. The person to go to, and some people just come to you for everything. Every little thing. And I've had a couple friends where, not everyone has done this, so I don't want to make it sound like that, but I've had a few where I've literally said, how come you always come to me? Like, just say, is it because you know that I have it? Is that why it is? I mean, at this point, now that I have a daughter and, other things on my plate, it's not like those things really add up to much, right? I feel very comfortable in that regard financially, but it doesn't mean that I want to spend all my money, or I could just treat it like it's Monopoly bucks. I was a person who, when I first made a lot of money, I bought the things I thought would be really cool to buy. And then like a month into it, you're just like, all right, I still feel the same. I still wake up and put, the same 4 sweat outfits on a week to go to the gym. I bought this, the first time I bought a really nice car. I thought you still drive it the same. It feels cool for like a month. Buy a nice house maybe for some people. I bought we bought a new house recently. I didn't buy I didn't buy like a crazy mansion or anything. I bought a nice house on the water, but after that, like, I don't know, you're buying just more expensive versions of the same shit you had when you didn't have as much money. Yeah, crabs in a barrel, crabs in a bucket. Yeah. Yeah, the hip hop these days is definitely, yeah, I feel like just an old person saying it, because when you're younger, everyone who's older than you says the same things, right? Oh, you don't know what it was like whenever I was younger, the music was better, yada yada. But I feel like it's true. But we also, you know, we become nostalgic about the things that were part of certain points in our lives that were important as well. So all those get attached, and it's more than just a song. It's a memory. It's a point in time that you reconnect to. So those things obviously carry more value. Yeah, D Kent, it's what you should be doing. It's like the benefit of reading even biographies or about people that have done great things in their life. It's the concept of I could see further because I stand on the shoulders of giants. If someone's walked the path before, then chances are they have pretty good advice on how to walk it, what things to avoid, um, how they were able to get by along the way. Yes, family is the most important thing. Absolutely. Honestly, since, my wife and I joke around, stream's becoming just a talking stream. My wife and I joke around, like, what were we doing before we had our daughter? Like, we had a great life, like, but what do we do, right? Like, we have all this, and we did the same thing that other people do. We went out to dinner, we, vacation from time to time, but then, what else? Like, that's it. That could be so boring. I would imagine that would be boring to do that forever. Maybe some people enjoy that, but once we had our daughter, it was almost like everything was complete, right? And then you realize that that's the most important thing, at least for me. My family is the most important thing. My daughter, my wife, my parents, my siblings. And after having my daughter, the idea of, before having my daughter, when this is like just a little bit of my psychology, before having my daughter, when people would come to me for things, I think, okay, yeah, like, no problem. I'm not borrowing from anyone else. I don't need this. If it helps you, that's great. Now I just think of like every little bit adds up for my daughter. Silly as that might sound, but I think it's, other people can probably relate. Like, I have more important things at this point than to worry about, your issues, why you're behind on your rent, for the 10th time. My dog is whimpering in her sleep in the background. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. So I'm going to end the stream soon, but before we had kids, we had everything else besides kids, right? We have great life. Okay. My trading has afforded that. My wife has her hobbies. I have my hobbies. We have horses, we have a dog, we have a cat. And you think when you think of the concept of love, you think of the things you already love, right? So before you have a child, everyone tells you you're going to love your child more than you could ever imagine. But you think about the things you already love and what would be more than that. And you might think linearly, right? Okay, so my wife loves the horses. I love my dog. I love Freya, right? So I'm thinking, all right, so I love my dog so much, right? I'm going to love my child more than my dog, right? So, okay, so how much more? I don't know, a lot more, right? A whole lot more. And in your head, that makes sense. Okay. But then when my daughter was born, you realize you didn't have any clue about what love even was. Okay. You could hear the dog dreaming. I love my dog, but when my daughter was born, I thought, okay, I didn't even know what love was. This is something that, if you're not religious, it's like a moment with God kind of thing. And yeah, it's incredible. Every day is an amazing day because, and everyone who has kids can relate to this, but even people that don't have kids can understand it. Every day is a new day because every day for years, right? They're going to be learning something new, making a different noise, doing something different that's cute. It melts you. But that's it, guys. I'm going to roll out. It's been an hour and a half. We put some points on the board, put 37 points on the board, which is not much in the NQ. I probably would have taken a lot more trades by now, but it's all good. I enjoy doing these streams. I'm a little tongue-tied today. I can tell you that. I don't know why. I think I can actually tell you why, because I had a pretty damn big breakfast. So that's a little bit of alpha. I am sharpest. So here's some insight. If you ever tune into a stream and notice how sometimes I could be kind of tongue-twisted and not have my thoughts all together, and sometimes I could seem really clear, cogent, and on point. There's a big difference between those days. Either no breakfast or breakfast. If I have a big breakfast, and if you have a big breakfast, this is something that, a little bit of info for you. Your brain has to, there's only so much energy to go around. So if you're digesting a big breakfast, so if you have a meeting, if you have a podcast, if you have anything work related, if you have to trade, you're probably better doing it on an empty stomach, honestly. Right after I eat, which was this morning, I had a big thing of overnight oats. I got it from the gym last night. And most people don't eat the right portion of oats. And I ate like 3 servings of the overnight oats in this jar they came in. You're supposed to scoop 1 out for breakfast. I just ate that at my desk this morning. Woke up really early because my daughter, and I'm definitely experiencing a ton of brain fog right now. But I appreciate you guys if you're able to deal with that. And I'll be going live again on what day? Maybe Saturday. Same thing. Or tomorrow. I don't know. I'll actually let you guys know on Twitter today. I might be doing this again tomorrow. Okay. Until then, have a fantastic evening. Be sure to check out those links below if you're interested in trading on either the platform or using any of the things that I use, because I think there's a couple links in there in the description below. If they're not, I'm just trying to think, they're in the Discord. So for example, Coinalyze, if you're interested in the platforms I use, trading platforms, if you're interested in the software, all that shit it's under resources in the Discord.